Right then, let's get cracking. Dean Nixon, the man, the myth, the legend. We won't talk about the album because we've already done that with other guests. Thanks for coming, by the way.
That's all right, pleasure.
So, you've literally just left the army yesterday officially.
Correct.
Haven't you?
Uh-huh.
You're probably, other than maybe Stugger and Potsy, I've known you the longest in terms of our journeys through Dijar, because I was already in it for maybe a year or two, and then you came to my school, or our school, and I was like, we went from having 2 sax players to 3, and you were the 3rd.
Yeah.
And it was like the 3 Musketeers, me, you and Billy, Will Taylor.
Yeah.
And then you quickly joined with your brother, and your mum and dad got obviously really involved.
Yeah.
So you're a bit similar to me in the fact that your family members were all involved in it, much like mine. Probably more so in your family, because my mum's not really been involved in the day-to-day running of it, but your folks were, and your brother was playing as well. So you understand Dijar like backwards like I do. So I just thought it'd be good to talk about that and like can you remember your first rehearsal or how it came about or?
Yeah, I can remember going to Hunger Hill School with the stage band. Yeah. And that was my first kind of, or the beginnings of being part of the Jazz Association.
Was that an alto though?
No.
Oh.
So I first started playing trumpet, but before this...
Did you?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, before this. So my mum obviously is a singer.
Yeah.
And my dad was tone deaf, plumber, but he was really supportive.
Yeah.
And when we were growing up, we had a piano in the house. So I started playing piano, then my brother played piano, and I got to about grade 3 and decided I can't be bothered with playing piano. I didn't enjoy it. It wasn't fun. And started to play drums. So from about the age of 6, I started to play drums.
I forgot about the drums.
Yeah, so I was playing drums for a while. And then I think I got to about the age of 10. Simon was about 9. And he wanted to play the trumpet. And I thought, I'll give the trumpet a go as well. So we both having trumpet lessons. And then there was the stage band were actually doing a concert in the Rosington Methodist Church.
Wow.
In Rosington, which was where we grew up.
Yeah.
And I remember just sitting on the front row, and the band were playing, and some guy stood up and started playing a solo on saxophone, and I was just like, "Oh man, that sounds amazing! I want to play that." Yeah, it turns out that was you.
Was it?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Was I squeaking all the time? I used to squeak like mad back then.
You had your Duke off on.
Did I?
Yeah.
That'll be why then. Yeah. Thought it was David Sambo.
Yeah, I know. You weren't.
Wow.
No.
Who plays a Duke off when they're like 12, 13?
Some crazy fool.
Wow. So that's how it started.
So that was it. So yeah, I kind of listened to that and was like, yeah, I want to play the sax.
Yeah.
And my birthday was coming up, and I said to mum and dad, I was like, I don't want to play trumpet anymore. I want to play the sax. And they were kind of like, okay. And I remember just on my birthday, it was kind of like early evening, and my dad came in just honking on this sax.
Yeah.
And I thought, that was the sound that I heard in the...
Thanks very much, Dean.
Yeah, you're welcome. It just took me back. It was like that night all over again. But no, he came in, he was just like honking away. I just thought, that sounds horrendous. What the hell is that? And he kind of came in and was playing the sax. I was like, oh, amazing. But he didn't have a case with it. It was so for the first lessons I had... basically, we just shoved it in a bag.
Really?
Just carrying it around in a bag,
It didn't come with a case?
On, no, crook on, everything was on it. But initially, when we first started going to the stage band, I was on trumpet because I didn't have a sax at the time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then when
so you started playing the sax but didn't have a sax?
Yeah.
Right. So you joined the band on trumpet. Right.
So joined the band on trumpet, had a few lessons on sax, and then started playing saxophone in the band.
Cool.
Yeah. So that was kind of how I got into playing sax. And it was all thanks to you.
And then you would have, thank you, you're welcome. And then you went to Macaulay, obviously, and that's where we met.
Yeah. Officially, yeah.
Yeah. And then, so when did you, because I always remember you as a Barry player in Dijar.
Yeah. So
when did that happen?
So I was on alto through stage band and swing orchestra. So when I moved up to swing orchestra, I was on alto sax initially, but there was always lots of alto saxes. And I remember there was I can't remember what her name was. There was a girl on baritone, and she was kind of hit and miss coming in. And your dad just said, "Does anybody want to have a go at playing baritone?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll give it a go."
Yeah.
And I remember just after the first rehearsal, like everybody was like, you know, wow, that sounded really good. And I was like, "Oh, right, thanks." So, you know, and your dad was like, "Well, do you want to come on, just play on baritone?" And I was like, "Yeah, all right."
Yeah.
And then it just stuck. And then from about, 6 months later, I was playing with a jazz orchestra on baritone.
That's the thing, because it opens up avenues, doesn't it? If you can play Barry, and it's not even a case of like being that great at reading, it's like, just can we hear you? Because a lot of Barry players, when they're younger, they're like tickling it, aren't they? But you proper gave it some.
I know. I remember your dad telling me when we were in the jazz orchestra after a gig, "Can you calm it down a bit, please?" Yeah, and I was just like,
that's what you want to hear, though.
Okay, yeah, because I can calm it down. But if you're trying to get somebody to blow out and they can't,
well, they don't want to usually.
But it's easier to tame somebody than it is to.
And that was it. You were just. Well, I mean, I know you've since subsequently played loads of other instruments, but you were basically the Barry player,
known as a baritone player from then on in.
Yeah. And then you went to, was it Huddersfield you went to?
Yeah, Huddersfield.
Did you stay on Barry for that?
No. So I went on alto and studied classical contemporary saxophone with a bass clarinetist of the Halle Orchestra, Jim Muirhead.
Wow.
And then he was in my first year, and then my tutor was Andy Scott, who's like really well-known sax tutor in the country now. Yeah. He's worked with Bob Mintzer and all sorts of guys. So I had him for 2 or 3 years, my years. Yeah, 2 and 3 years at uni. But what was good about him was, although we were meant to be studying classical contemporary, because he was at the Royal College Northern teaching there, it was just, we'd come in a class and he'd go, "Look, I know you don't really want to do this. Let's just go through some jazz changes and some stuff like that." And it was great because he just mixed it up a bit, and it kind of just took that monotony of doing classical music away and technique all the time. And
you quite enjoyed doing classical, though, didn't you?
I didn't mind it. I wouldn't say I enjoyed it. It was a means to an end.
So when you did your grades as a kid, was that on Barry or did you switch to alto?
That was always on alto.
So you stuck to alto for your grades, probably with a Selma C-style mouthpiece or something. Yeah, and then played Barry for fun.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people do that.
Yeah. Like I said, I didn't mind it, and I enjoyed playing baritone because I could just blow the hell out of it. And I could be part of the jazz orchestra, which at the time not a lot of people were doing. I remember, I think we did a gig at there was a hotel in the middle of Doncaster.
Was it the Earl?
No, it wasn't the Earl. It was another gig. Concord?
The Concord Suite was in the Earl. Oh, is it the Danem Hotel?
Danem Hotel.
Yeah.
And we did a gig there. And I remember your dad getting me up to do a solo. And we'd been to America with my parents for our summer holidays to visit my cousin who lived out in America.
Okay.
And they hired me an alto sax. And I learnt the blues scale when I was out there.
Nice.
And we came back, and funnily enough, it was a D minor blues. Yeah. And your dad went, "Just..." You pointed to me and said, "Do you want a solo?" And I was like, "Yeah, all right." Got up and did this. Just played the D minor blues over this blues. And funnily enough, it was all in D minor. It all fitted. Yeah. And I sat down and everybody was like, "Where did that come from?" Yeah. And I was just like, I just learnt it.
It's funny, isn't it? I remember like being in all that, I don't think I was in Swing Up, but I was in stage band and the youth jazz orchestra. Whenever we got up to solo, I think because there weren't any local teachers in Doncaster that were jazz players. So I just remember just looking at the key and going, right, well, I'll stick to the key, move my fingers and hope for the best. And it was literally that for several years. And, I think that's how most of us started. And then, like you say, at some point, someone introduces you to this amazingly magical blues scale where you can't play any wrong notes and you sound great. Yeah. Next thing you know, you want to play everything in D blues or G blues if you're an alto player. But it does open up a lot of, and you can sound quite good in it quite quickly, I think. That's why when I'm teaching, and someone wants to improvise, I'll always start with D blues if it's an alto player or G blues if it's a tenor player. Yeah. And I think kids are just amazed. They're like, "Oh, actually, it's not that difficult."
Because the thing is that the sequence of a blues can fit over a lot of things.
Yeah.
And so just knowing one scale that can do the whole
Yeah.
whole sequence is like a magic key, really.
Yeah.
It just unlocks it. And especially, like you say, if somebody is beginning, they can then get their ears to get accustomed to that sound and what it should sound like.
Yeah.
And then you can take it from there.
Yeah. So me and you have done a lot of tours with Dijar, with your dad and mum and your brother involved.
Yeah.
Are there any particularly fond moments? Do you remember the Germany one?
Which one?
The one where you were hungry and we were all hungover.
Oh, mate.
But it was in a brewery. It actually ended up being a really good gig.
Yeah. Oh, it was probably one of the better gigs the band have played.
That trip,
yeah.
I think, was that the trip when Stugger told us all to pipe down because there was a mutiny at the back of the bus about the fact that we couldn't rehearse, and we had the first CD coming up.
Right.
And I think we were underprepared, or we felt we were underprepared.
Yeah.
And we wanted to go and rehearse instead of go to a gas museum or something. Do you remember that? I don't know if that's the same trip.
I don't remember that at all. But I remember the brewery because we were back on it, like as in terms of we were drinking as well. I think we'd been out the night before. We were all, like you say,
we were old enough, by the way, if anyone's watching or listening.
But like at the end of the day, it's I mean, I can get a bit if I don't get a lot of sleep, I get a bit like grumpy, and if I've been around the same people a long time, like. I can get agitated.
Mate, there was no problem about that. You were actually totally in the right. I think it's because no one was loading the bus or everyone was just sacking it off, basically.
Probably.
But I just thought it was really funny because you never get angry ever, by that point I must have known you probably 10 years.
Yeah.
And I'd never ever seen you get remotely peed off about anything, and yet you were, and it was valid because no one was doing anything, and you were like, everyone do your job, blah, blah. And it was like, instead of getting feeling told off, we just started laughing. It was funny.
I remember everybody laughing, and it just wound me up.
Yeah, even more.
I was just like,
do you remember were you on the one when we played football and your dad burst the ball?
So I remember that because the ball kept hitting the bus.
That's it.
And my dad was like, right, if that ball hits the bus again, I'm taking it off of you.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh. And I remember Dennis McDonough being there, Stugger being there, like you were there. And we were just having this kick about and it hit the bus again. And I remember Dad going out, right, that's it, got the ball, I remember he wedging it under the bus, the tyre, and he went to the driver, right, come on, let's do it, and he put it underneath, but pop,
and he burst the ball. We were like, what are you doing?
And I thought Dennis was really going to kick off, but he just laughed. And I said to Dad, why the hell did you do that? And he says, I just thought it was going to pop out.
Brilliant. Do you know that we've still got that ball somewhere?
Yeah, well, it was in the jazz.
It was in the jazz centre.
In the case, wasn't
it? I think it's safe somewhere because that ball is...
It's a trophy.
Well, it is. It's like a legendary piece of history, isn't it? From our history anyway.
Yeah.
Some of the trips, so much fun.
New Orleans was a good one.
Yeah.
I mean, that was probably the highlight for me.
Yeah.
New Orleans,
definitely.
Lucky Chan's in New York.
But Lucky Chan's in New York. Oh, yeah, because you did New York as well.
Yeah.
We've had some great trips, haven't we?
Amazing trips.
Through music.
And it's a shame that they're not doing it now. And that's what is kind of like the upsetting thing is, I mean, we had all that opportunity to do that and travel and go to America, go to New Orleans, go to New York and play at these amazing exhibitions and get to see all these amazing, jazz musicians play, getting in a lift and in walks Herbie Hancock and Randy Brecker. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm stood in a lift with Herbie Hancock and Randy Brecker. And you're just like, while they're talking away to each other, it's like, how often are you ever going to get to do that?
I heard that story. I missed that. I wasn't there then. But that amazing stuff.
Yeah.
You're right. It is sad. It's just a sign of the times. I mean, obviously, Dijar's still going strong. Or as strong as it can with the fact that there's less and less kids doing music now. But I just feel that our particular... always feel like there's... Having watched it all from it being 2, I feel like there's certain generations in the history of Dijar over the 50 years. And certainly the generation that we were part of seemed to have a lot of people that were really into music, really practiced a lot, and all went on to be pro players.
Yeah.
It was like a window of maybe a 5 or 6 year period. And I can name loads of people, apart from me and you, like Anto, John Escree, your brother, Stugger, big lad. there's loads more than
Loads
that,
more, yeah.
all gone into the industry. And it felt like a really good period because we all were quite serious about music. We had some great concerts. We played at the Albert Hall. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Luton Who?
Yeah, it was Cy Cosgrove.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I don't know how old we were then, probably like 19 or something.
Yeah, I've got it on a tape at home.
Yeah.
VHS.
Playing, you know, the Albert Hall in front of 8,000 people with your mates and getting like a standing ovation because I think, you know, a lot of the other stuff, with it being the school's proms, it's classical. So, you know, anyone playing anything remotely modern, I think gets like a better kind of reception. Oh, just amazing. And, you know, I just wish that, I hope that it will come back to that and that kids will get to experience those same things. Do you know what I mean?
I do too, because like I said, it's those things that inspire you to go on and do more. You know, they're kind of like a foundational thing.
Yeah.
It's like you've got something to drive towards and constantly work towards. If you're just doing concerts and gigs, that's great, and you have got a goal to work for. But when you've got the opportunity to play at the Albert Hall, or you're going to play in front of all these amazing jazz musicians in New Orleans, it's a massive driver, and it spurs you on to, you know, be a better band, you know, be good at what you are, and to do it with all your friends as well, with all your mates. There's nothing better than that.
Yeah, it's great. I honestly feel blessed to have done all that with you and the lads, and that we're still mates now. We're still in touch. We've just done this album.
Yeah.
You know, we're going to be doing gigs together. It's brilliant. I think music is just such a great thing to have in your life. No, at whatever level. Obviously, me and you have decided to make a career out of it, but I know there's plenty of people that still play and appreciate music, not at a professional level, but it's a big part of their world.
Yeah.
I just think it's awesome, you know? And kudos to your dad, you know, because, you know, your dad was a massive figure in our childhood, bless him. And even though he wasn't musical per se, the amount of effort he put into supporting your mum and then you two as well,
I think with Dad, he was just... He liked music. Like, he'd have music on all the time. I remember growing up and there was always like Nat King Cole or, you know, jazz swing playing in the background.
Is that the type of stuff he was into then?
Yeah. So like that was always going on. That was always being played.
Right, okay.
Frank Sinatra was always being played in the house. So he loved music.
Yeah.
He just couldn't do it himself. And I think when myself and my brother decided we wanted to go into that, he was kind of like, great, you know, that's brilliant. And he wasn't a pushy dad, although he was very competitive, and he was always like, go on, you know, you can do it. You go up there.
Get in there.
Yeah,
put your
sort
hand
of
up.
thing. Put your hand up for a
But you do
solo
need
and all
that though.
You do need a push.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say he's like a pushy parent or was a pushy parent, but he was very supportive. And I remember when I kind of started working in London, he was just like, oh, why are you not doing this gig, or why are you not doing that? And I says, well, I can't play that instrument. He went, doesn't matter, just go and do it, sort of thing, because he'd always want the best for you in that kind of environment. So, he was just really supportive, really good. He was really good to have.
Yeah, I feel like, and not just for you guys, like for all of us as well, because he was so heavily involved in Dijar.
Well, I remember when we bought the jazz, or your dad and that bought the jazz centre, and I mean, the amount of work they put into doing that, not just my dad or your dad, but like the whole community of parents that came along and helped them work. It was just like, you know, that centre wouldn't have been what it was without the help and support of those individuals. So
definitely. I remember putting up that second ceiling with your dad and Trevor.
Ceiling.
I'm amazed that stood the test of time, to be honest. Amazed, because I think we took that out of another building on top of the French Gate or something.
Well, so the car park at the top, there was a kind of a derelict building. We were given permission to go in and take whatever we wanted out of it, and it was all the ceiling from in there, the full ceiling.
That's the beauty of, I think, the history of Dijar is just people mucking together, musicians and non-musicians.
Yeah.
Dad's often said that some of the best help he's had in helping move it forward is with people that don't play and might not even be that into music like your dad clearly was, but are into young people and helping young people get something out of music. And I genuinely feel that we were probably in one of the best periods in terms of the amount of gigs we did and tours. You know, you've just we've been to America twice, Germany, God knows how many times, France,
Yeah.
you know, Albert Hall, all these records we've done. I think me and you on every album, aren't we?
Pretty
the CD
much.
out ones.
Yeah.
All those things, like, God, if my daughter or your kids get to do that, I'll be happy.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, they'd be happy as well.
Yeah.
You know.
Whether or not it'll happen, we'll have to make sure it does.
Yeah.
You need to get some gigs, Dean.
I know. Working on it. It's not easy. I thought it'd be quite easy, but looking at what's out there, everybody's kind of shut for this year and kind of taking on gigs. They're looking to next year. But when you get in touch with them to say, right, okay, this is us, this is what we're doing, they're kind of like, yeah, we're not actually looking for next year yet, but we're not taking on any more for this year.
Yeah, I think there's a very short window.
So now I'm just biding my time. It's
We'll be fine.
But
I think we'll have done 5 already this year so far. That's nearly there.
By the end of the year. If we can try and squeeze one more in somewhere.
Yeah, maybe after the summer. But no, I know that you're going to try and maybe get some festival things if you can.
So that's my aim for next year, is to start kind of ramping up the level of what we do.
Yeah.
And just trying to take it up that step, get a few festivals.
That'd be great. What about if we did something with a guest musician? Or
this is what your dad was talking about as well. It's like, I know he was talking about for this Earl, which is a bit too soon.
Yeah, it's not enough time.
Potentially you could do something for the Christmas gig because it's time to book somebody in. But if we would go maybe do a few festivals next year, or like a little mini tour, do a few things, then we could try and rope a guest artist in. The only problem is they won't pay in.
Yeah, but do you think Gregory Porter charges? Can you imagine that?
Gregory.
Yeah, Greg.
Do you fancy?
Fancy it.
Hollering a few tunes.
But something like, it's probably not going to happen, but that'd be just amazing. Playing with someone at that level.
That calibre.
Do you know what I mean?
Well, it's a goal. We can only aspire to do something like that and get to that stage where we are, potentially, maybe doing a little mini tour with the guest artist like Gregory Porter or... I don't know, try and get somebody in from the States, like Bob Mintzer's always across here.
Oh, that'd be a good one.
So something like that.
Yeah. And just play his big band charts, like Computer and... what's the other one we used to do? We did a couple, didn't we? They're all they were contrapuntal, aren't they?
Yeah.
Difficult.
He's a good composer, good arranger.
You'd be on bass clarinet for that, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
With baritone stuff?
Yes. So there's some stuff would be on bass clarinet.
Which I know you've got covered.
Yeah.
All day long.
Well...
Multi-instrumentalist that you are. We're going to have to wrap it up there, mate.
All right, mate.
But thanks so much for coming in.
No, pleasure. Absolute pleasure.
And thanks for coming to France. And it's just really nice to have you back in the section, mate. It's like being back in the 90s again.
Yeah.
It's ace.
It's good.
Yeah.
I do miss the times when, we had Anto down the bottom. And remember Paul Conway?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
what was his name? Corn Dog.
Corn Dog. Yeah. He does triathletes.
Does he?
Yeah, he does triathlons and stuff like that now. It's some good times. Good times.
Brilliant times. And long may they continue.
Yeah.
Right, thanks, mate. I'll see you soon.
Yeah, no drama.
See ya.
See ya.